Christie Brinkley is an all-American icon, a supermodel, actress, entrepreneur, artist, and humanitarian. This multi-hyphenate has accomplished much during 50 years in the public eye. Now, with her new memoir, Uptown Girl, Christie takes us behind the scenes of her life and career with untold, intimate stories about her work, family secrets, and being on the road with a certain rock star. We'll be discussing all that and more in this Newsday Live conversation. Please welcome Christie Brinkley.
Hi, everybody. I'd like to introduce this New York Times best-selling author, Christie Brinkley.
Thanks to all of you. Welcome. Oh, I don't think my phone's here. I hope it doesn't ring. Welcome, everybody, to my home away from home, our Newsday studios. I'm Elisa DiStefano, and I am so thrilled to be here with you tonight and to have Christie Brinkley here. I've been, as I'm sure you all are, such a fan for so long, and it is always such an honor to be in your energy. So thank you for being here with us tonight.
I always look forward to seeing Elisa in the Hamptons. She comes out for all the events and all of that, and she is always a bright spite.
Thank you.
A bright spite.
I'll take it.
And a bright spot, too.
Thank you. I feel like over the years, I've had the pleasure of doing so many interviews with you, and I felt like I really knew a lot about you. But this book, I feel like I was on the adventure of a lifetime with you, or rather a lifetime of adventures. There are so many great stories in here. And I've seen you over the years, do so much, from magazines to TV shows to movies, to Broadway, to being the ringmaster in a circus. I was there for that. But I think this memoir is by far the most courageous thing professionally that you have put out into the world.
Well, thank you. Thank you. The parts of this memoir were a joy to write. And I loved the whole experience of sort of reliving like my years in Paris and my travels and all of these wonderful things. And some chapters were not so fun. And it was a very emotional journey at that point that left me feeling very vulnerable. But, if you're going to share your life story, I really feel that you've got to give both sides, the highs, the lows, the ups and downs, and the whole shebang. And that's what I did. And I'm glad that you mentioned too that because my big worry was, because I have been around for so long, that people were going to think, we know everything there is to know. But there's a lot of juicy tidbits and lots of adventures and all of that as well. So
why decide that now was the time that you wanted to put the pen to the paper and write this?
Well, as far as actually turning it into a book, it was now or never. I'm 71, and so if not now, when? But also, I am a journaler. Like, I have kept journals ever since I read Harriet the Spy. I'm so sorry to be turning my back on the side over here. I'm gonna try and hide. But I loved the book Harriet the Spy. She had her journal and she would spy on everybody. And so I left the spying behind, but I kept the journaling.
Well, while I was reading it, because you don't mention the journal right away, and all I could think was, how does she remember these beautiful, vibrant details? And then when I got to the part that said about the journals, I was like, oh, that's how. Maybe I should start keeping journals, but they certainly wouldn't be as interesting as this.
I would encourage it. Because some of the stuff, like reading through the journals, I was so surprised at some of the things that I had forgotten. And then I was like, oh yeah, I did do that. And some of the times I was like, what was I thinking? I even say in the book at one point, I write about something that I don't know what I was thinking when I went through a certain part of my life. And in my journals too, I do a lot of illustrations. A few of them made it into the book, but my illustrations were because when I left home to go move to Paris and be an artist in a little garret under the rooftops, and I left with a backpack, and I had worked that year to save. I had $500 in my pocket and a Eurail pass that was good for 3 months, and a backpack, and I didn't want to lose my camera, so I started drawing my things that I wanted to remember. And my letters home were very elaborate, and my journals were quite elaborate. And those drawings, I always thought, the drawings got smaller and smaller as my life got busier and busier. But I kept looking at them like, someday, when my life slows down, I'll open this journal and I'll take that little thumbnail sketch and I'll turn it into a whole canvas. So
this turns it into this, which is pretty remarkable. When you were writing the book, did you know right away the parts that you wanted to put in there? Like, what was that process like for you?
No, and even writing the book, like even deciding on the book was tough, because my dad was a television writer, and he would always say to me, baby, if you do one thing, just one thing, write a book about Paris. And my life in Paris could be its own book.
Yeah.
It really could. Like, I could have just stayed there writing about that. But at this point, I knew I needed to move on and do my whole life. But I thought that was one idea. Another idea was to really follow the journals really closely and publish pretty much the journals, and have the drawings and my little writings and all of that. And then my other idea was, maybe like my dad, I should actually write a script, because the further away from each divorce that I kept thinking they were really funny. Like they get funnier and funnier the further away. And then at that point, I thought, a Nancy Meyers movie.
I did.
Right? I've got all the characters,
Yeah.
a cast of characters, good real estate, good clothes for the most part.
Good clothes.
Yes, Tower Hill. And, I thought it's all the ingredients of a Nancy Meyers movie. So I went in with that and floated those ideas around. And then Lisa Sharkey from HarperCollins said, no, you need to do your life story. So I got a little, notebook, and I started writing I was born. And I thought, where do I even begin? How do I start this? What do I do? Never mind, I'm not going to do it. And I called back. I said, that was a really presumptuous idea. Like, who's going to want to read my life story? And then it turns out to be a pretty good story. But Lisa Sharkey, then, when I told her that, she wrote me a letter that was so great. And so, I wanted her to write my book. I loved her letters so much. But she convinced me that I needed to write my life story. And I'm really glad that she did, because when you see it, when you go through that process, whether you're going to publish it or not, you kind of get to experience your life in a way where you see it in a way maybe you haven't thought of before. Like, right now, looking at it in retrospect, it's a little bit like that movie Sliding Door, where, like, if this didn't happen, this terrible thing that you think is so awful, or something that that's actually what propels you into the next thing that's so magical and great. So that kind of pattern keeps repeating in my life. And it's whether it was my horrible perm in Paris with my hair that I did not know what to do with, that actually caught Julie Campbell's eye, to a helicopter crash that led to my son Jack.
Yeah. This book has all of the elements. There are parts where I was actually felt like that pit in my stomach. I was nervous, and I'm like, I know she's going to be okay, because I know she's going to be okay. But you had that. You had, such joy, such magic, sadness. That there are the range of emotions in this book. I know that this was not your intent going in, but I found it also very much a self-help book, because there were so many inspirational messages and life lessons in there, and so many relatable things about your life that I didn't know about before I read the book, from your childhood to marriages to how you felt about your own image. And it's like, wow, if Christie Brinkley could look in the mirror and think that about herself, like my goodness. So I think that it does more than just entertain. It really is going to inspire a lot of people too.
Yeah, I've been pleased to hear that from different outlets that I've been doing interviews with. Even the editor of WebMD said, I want to interview you because I think it's really good for people with mental health issues, because it really is a sort of a triumph of positivity and optimism, and the power that those can have on your life. And so yes, there are I didn't want to make a book, like here's a problem and I'm going to solve it. I wanted it to just be presenting the way that I managed to pick myself up and dust myself off and start all over again.
There's something so beautiful that is, woven into the whole book from start to finish. And that's something that your dad said to you, Christie, baby, you write your own script. So go out there and make sure you write a damn good one. And I have to say, I've thought of that in my own head.
Yes.
I was lucky. I had a preview. I got the book a few months back, and so many times, I've thought of that. No, you write your own script. You get to decide, what this life is.
Every single day of your life, you get to write a whole new page. And it's up to you, to do something wonderful with that day. And I give this lecture to my kids all the time, and you wonder, are they listening? And you keep trying to drive home that positivity and that idea that you're in charge, and it's up to you to write yourself out of a corner. If you get yourself into a corner, write yourself out of it. And one day, my daughter Sailor came home with her first tiny little dainty tattoo. And I was like, oh no, what'd you do? Where is it? Show me, break it to me. And it was on the side of her finger, and it was tiny, and it said, I decide.
Oh, I love that.
And I thought, she was listening.
I admire so much about you. One thing I admire is that you're always willing to try something new. And through the years, the other two things that I really admire, your great love for your parents and watching you with your children, because what I've watched from afar with you, with all three of your children, you could just see how much they love being with you.
Oh, thank you.
And you could see that love. And you really feel that in this book also. Were they supportive of you putting your life story out there?
Yes, they were. All three of them in their own way. I would say Alexa probably most of all, oddly enough.
Because you're all private. You're all private.
Yes.
People.
Yes. And because I know there's a million Billy Joel fans here, I'm one too.
We're going to get there. We'll get there, everybody.
And I am too. And he actually came to me and said, I want you in my documentary, and you can say your side of the story. You know, you can say whatever you need to say. You know, it's all okay. It's all good. And be honest. And so, and that opens at he's opening up the Tribeca Film Festival with his documentary. So that's coming out shortly.
All right. Well, since we're talking about Joe,
Yeah.
as you call him in the book, so much of your life story is serendipitous. Like there's just so much synchronicity, including how you met Joe. So
Yeah.
can you tell us a little bit about that story?
Yeah, so it's a great story. St. Bart's had just recently been discovered as the island, and I loved that island, by the way. Oh, so great. And I was down there on a shoot for a magazine, and I think there were like 2 magazines on the island at that moment doing a shoot. And we had just finished our day's work. We stopped in at a little cafe in Gustavia Harbor to grab a quick bite to eat, when all of a sudden, one of the guys from the crew comes bursting into the little restaurant and goes, Billy Joel's at the PLM. The PLM is this kind of divey hotel where we all stayed when we were there to work, and had a little kind of a, little shabby little bar in it. And they said, and so I was with my best friend, Maury Hobson, who I call Hobbs. And he was a big Billy Joel fan. And he goes, Billy Joel, come on, let's go. We're not even going to eat. Just keep the change. Let's go. And we start flying out. Now, I didn't know who he was because I had been living in Paris. And Paris was the one country that Billy had yet to conquer. And so I didn't know who he was. And I kind of thought Billy Joel is going to be a country music star, something. So we go walking in, and there's 3 people sitting at a bar, and I see them, but I'm scanning, looking for like a rock star or a country star or something. But it was Billy and his friends sitting at the bar, and Billy was in a little like Hawaiian type shirt, and his hair was sort of frizzing out from the humidity, and he had gotten a sunburn, so he had some sort of oil on. But the second we struck up a conversation, he was hilarious and charming and self-effacing and like just really down to earth and really great. And I knew instantly that I wanted him to be my friend.
So not love at first sight.
It was
that kind of love.
But it was like, I want this guy, and I want him to be my friend forever. Like we just had a simpatico, like right away. So, and he told me later, he was thinking, I see there's a little piano at the end of the bar, and when I sit by the piano, then that's when I get the girls. So I got to get my way over to the piano. So he does. He pats the piano seat, and so I run over and sit next to him, and he goes, so what do you want to hear? and I said, oh, thinking somebody had told me by now he's the piano man. So I was like, Girl from Ipanema? And he was like expecting like she's always a woman, honesty, piano man, And he goes, okay. And then I'm like, I just learned the song in Portuguese. Hit it. Olha que coisa mais linda, mais cheia de graça. And he's like, okay. And I'm like, really going to town on my little bossa nova samba number. And as I'm winding down, this beautiful, very young girl walks over and goes, I can sing. And he's like, and he said to me later, he was thinking, yeah, beat it, kid. Like, I'm just getting warmed up here, and she goes, no, really, I can sing. And he goes, all right, well, what do you want to hear? And she says, respect. Aretha Franklin. And he's like, okay. He starts and she wails. She nails it. She is like, whoa, because she is Whitney Houston.
Amazing. That's amazing.
Yeah. She was just a young model. She wasn't discovered yet. She was killing it at that bar. And we were like, Billy was like, yeah, she can sing. So, meantime, Elle Macpherson wanders in, and you're going to have to read the book for the rest.
I think we better get working on this movie, Christie. So you and I keep calling him Joe because that is what.
Yeah, so I didn't know what to call him. I was like, is it like Billy Joe McAllister who jumped off the Tallahassee Bridge? Or, is it like, so I didn't want to be rude. So I said, you know what? You look like a Joe to me. I'm going to call you Joe. And he said, oh, yeah, my mom calls me Joe. So I called him Joe for as long as I, was married to him. And then I thought I better, be more formal now that we're divorced.
He was quite the romantic, as you describe in the book. And you met each other at a time in your life where you both really needed each other. And he wrote you a note, and it read, "Once I thought my innocence was gone. Feel free to read it along with me. Now I know that happiness." Come on, crowd. You know the words of this one. "That's where you found me. When you put your arms around me. That I haven't been there for the first time."
Yeah. And then he wrote another chapter to that song, which was how he proposed to me. A chapter, another verse. But it started a whole new chapter in our lives. Yeah. Yes.
So you found each other at that time where you both had.
Yes, and we were friends first, which I think is a really great way to do it, And he was so supportive of me. I had a boyfriend who was killed in an auto racing accident, and Billy and I had been friendly and spoken a little bit, but he really wanted to help me get through that, and he was so sincere. It was really so just big-hearted and sincere, and he really did help me
During that time,
and he had been going through a divorce.
Yeah.
So
during that time, you also fell in love with Long Island.
I did.
And decided of all the places in the world that you traveled, that you wanted to make this your home.
Yes.
And this is where you wanted to raise Alexa.
Yes. And we did a trip. I outlined some of it in the book. We literally went through to every nook and cranny along the shoreline, the eastern seaboard. And we kept going, Long Island's better.
I think we agree, right?
And
and this is still your home.
Yes. Yes.
Which was really incredible.
Yes.
You've had so many great loves in your life. And even though they each had their own endings, you continue to love again. And I think that was so clear to me in this book, just how much love you have in your heart. So many people go through heartbreak. How every time did you get back up and put yourself out there?
Well, it was a little bit harder each time, but I love love. I love being in love, but I'm very aware that there's so many kinds of love, and there's love all around us. And I find right now I don't have anybody special in my life, but I feel like I love so many of my friends. I love my children. Like I love my garden. I love my trees, my plants. I love my neighbors. I just feel so grateful for like each day. I love each day.
I mean, but that's so you when you read this book, you'll see you've been through so much. You have so much grit. You've dealt with so much adversity. Yet you have a smile on your face and a glow about you. And so many people would have retreated and let it bring them down and not gone back out there. And you got up every time, and you still do. And you spread positivity. And that's something that's really special that you just don't see that often in people.
And I really think it's going to seem cliche and everything, but I really do think that it is the power of gratitude that gets me up each day and keeps me going. Because when I count my blessings, and it always starts with Alexa, Jack, Sailor, by the time I get to Sailor, I am so full of gratitude. I don't really need to even go on down the list, although I can write a really long list of what I'm grateful for. But I think that always gets me through. There are times when it's really hard, no two ways about it. But once you start counting what you're grateful for, we really have so much to be grateful for. So,
what would you say that you're most proud of?
Well, my kids, and I guess, I mean, I think writing the book, I had little moments when I felt like, well done. You made it through that.
I mean, you've made it through a lot.
Yeah.
A lot.
Yes. But, compared to some things that people go through, it's nothing, I mean, I'm very aware of like all the suffering in the world. And so I can't get too wound up. I mean, I would say the most challenging time is like when my parents were dying.
Yeah. Did you find healing in writing this, whether it's relationships or still, I'm sure that's still so emotional.
I still get choked up.
I know.
When it's the people that you love and they suffered for 10 years, the two of them, that really, really suffered. And so that's something that you can't really it's hard to, they are my perspective. They are the top of my list that I would count. Like my parents are healthy and happy. My kids are healthy and happy, but when my parents weren't, when they were suffering, that was really hard to find a way to put that in perspective. But I really believe in the power of miracles too. And I outline in the book a moment that it was, maybe some of you in this room were even involved, but my mom had a medical miracle, where she was scheduled to, and this is a real story about the power of positive thinking, because they had found something in her heart, and she was scheduled to go in for a really big open heart surgery, and my brother and my dad, who was very frail and fragile at the time, we all met at the hospital. And I was there first with my mom to get her settled in. And I had written that morning before I went to get my mom, I had put a thing up on Facebook at the time, was the thing that everybody was using. And I was a newcomer to Facebook. But I said, I just want to ask for everybody to give me your best wishes, your thoughts, your prayers, your whole, like for my mom, she's going to go through a very dangerous heart surgery. And if you could just send your best. Well, I checked my page when I got to my mom, and there was and I started reading them to her.
Wow.
And when I started to read these to her, she was a gray, kind of pale gray color. Her skin, which is always golden, was gray. And I start reading the prayers, the wishes, the words of positivity and strength. And my mom started to literally, her face started to get color in it. And she started to perk up. And I could see her whole demeanor and her whole body started to really, it was visible. And I read and I kept reading to her. And then the doctor said, okay, it's time to take her away. And then I went to the waiting room and I was joined by just at the moment when my brother came, as my brother's approaching the hospital, this giant semi-truck with the words in all the way top to bottom, milagro, which means miracle in Spanish, written on the side of this flower truck that was delivering the flowers to the hospital, and it stopped them from coming in for a minute. And they looked at each other and said, I think it's a good sign. Yeah. And then the exact moment that their door flew open to come into the waiting room where I was, the door at the other side with the doctor came in, and the doctor said, I said, already? Is she okay? And he said, sometimes the only word you can use for what's happened is miracle.
Right.
He said, we went in, there was nothing there. Her heart was perfect. We just stopped what we were doing and she's fine.
No.
Wow. I mean,
Yeah, that's the power of prayer, right?
So there is, whether it's the power of prayer or the power of positivity or the power, my mom always said to me, if I ever said, that makes me sick, she'd say, don't say that. Your body's always listening.
Yeah.
Don't use those words. Your body will hear you and you will get sick.
Yeah.
So just a food for thought.
They were so proud of you. You brought them so much joy, especially when you were on Broadway.
Yes.
In Chicago. So I'm sure they're smiling down now, watching you have.
That's what we said. I got the call in the car on the way here. My editor and my team that helped me put the book together, who got my pictures together and all of that stuff. They called up and they said, you're on the New York Times bestsellers list, #4. And I just thought, I said, if my parents were alive, that would be the next call. And they would have been like, oh, baby, good going. Yeah, so, yeah, they're up there.
Yep, smiling down, that is for sure. There were some surprising things in this book that I was like, I had no idea. And one that really took me was your love of boxing. Did you all know that? Well, I have to ask her about this.
Well, it started because every guy I knew, the only thing they could talk about at this point in time was Muhammad Ali coming back to fight Larry Holmes at the super fight at the Superdome. And was Ali too old? Was he, was his arm long? Whose arm was longer? Who weighed more? Ali was out of shape. Was he going to get down to the weight? It was the only thing they could talk about. And I love to think that I have done a little bit of everything in my life. And I really love Muhammad Ali, just him, I just thought he was a great, positive character. And I just liked him. And I thought, if ever I'm going to ever see one fight, I'll see one fight. It should be Muhammad Ali. So I thought, that's the fight I want to go to. Well, I'm sitting at the Plaza Hotel with hops at that corner table with the view over everything. And I go, is that Muhammad Ali on the other side of the street, crossing the street? He's crossing right toward, it is, it's Muhammad. And I was up and out of my chair like a bullet. And I shot across that restaurant and through the lobby and down the steps just as he's walking by. And I said, Muhammad Ali, I've been wanting to see you. And he said, and I've been wanting to see you. and I said, I really want to go to your fight. And he said, no, I'd love to have you there. And he was walking with Mark McCormick, and so they got me tickets. And so I became a photographer, a ring photographer, because I went there with my camera and everything, and I was so taken by the authenticity of the sport and the tale of the tape and the stories behind everybody. And I mean, I'm a pacifist. I don't like violence, but it's sometimes the only way out of, their circumstances and all these backstories and the tradition and all of that. So yeah, I became a photographer for Ring magazines / model.
You've done so many things. Is there anything that you feel like, man, I wish I would have done that you didn't do?
Go to India. I did not want to go to India in fancy bourgeois clothing modeling because I was very aware of the poverty there and everything. I wanted to go there and blend and just kind of weave through the culture and see it on my own terms. So I had a trip there once, but I said no. And as a result, I still haven't been to India. So I've got it. So, I got to get there.
All right, we got to get you to India.
But there's plenty of other things on that list too.
And what would you say to this young lady on the cover?
Fasten your seatbelts. It's going to be a bumpy ride.
An extraordinary one. I could sit here and talk to you for 3 more hours, but all of these wonderful people have come, and I know you have questions to ask. So we just ask that you raise your hand and wait for the microphone to come to you, and we will take some of your questions. All right, who's first?
Hey, Christie, I'm DJ Chef. I'm a private chef in the Hamptons. I actually did your Blue Moon Ball way back when. I try to transition into organic, cooking. And,
that's so good.
Yeah. I know you were always an advocate of that. And,
yeah.
I just wanted to know, is there certain farms that you could recommend out east? I know of a couple, but I know that's
like Boomy Farms is really good. There's another one. The name escapes me right now. Balsam. Yes. Balsam. Boomy's doing farm-to-table cooking right in their fields. And Balsam has that really good grilled corn on the cob.
Yes.
Yum.
Hi, Christie. Any plans at all to come back to Broadway? I'll even take off Broadway.
Oh, did you come to the show when I did it?
I wanted to, and I regret that I wasn't able to. So will you give me another chance?
I did go back to Chicago right before the, in 2020, right before the COVID hit. And it was a little bit harder than 10 years earlier. But I don't know, it's such a commit. Broadway is, I have to say, I loved every single second of it. But it is a huge commitment.
I have an alternate suggestion.
Okay.
West Hampton Beach Theater.
Oh, that's a great place. Yeah.
Yeah, that's true. Well, I will be in Celebrity Autobiography this August. I'm not sure if it's Guildhall or Bay Street or where they're doing it yet. But I will be posting about it on my Instagram as soon as I get the stuff. But That's going to be this August. And guess whose autobiography might be spoofed? I saw that Eugene Pack, the creator, did a post with that in his hands. And I was thinking, wonder what he's going to, which one he's going to get in there.
It's a great show. It's going to be a lot of fun. Look at that post.
Okay, thank you.
Hi, Christy. You're beautiful as ever. And I'm a huge Billy Joel fan, like everyone else probably is here too. But what's it like when you see your daughter on stage singing?
Pardon me?
What's it like when you see Alexa on stage with him singing?
Oh, I love it. I love it so much. I think the first time was, I'm not sure if it was, but Alexa got to sing with Billy at Carnegie Hall because Sting was doing a rainforest legacy. And so the artists came with their legacy, their children who were musicians. So Sting had his daughter, Billy had Alexa, James Taylor had one of his kids. I can't remember who all was there, but it was quite a great evening. And to see Alexa sitting, I think she sat on the piano lid. When she was a baby, I would always put her on the piano lid. Like from the day she was born, I wanted her to get those good vibes, let it resonate through her. And so I get emotional every single time. I'm the one running along the edge of the stage with my little video going, getting every shot.
She's incredible when it's this thing.
Hi, Christy. I'm Candy from Lido Beach.
Hi.
I know Elisa from Mona Lisa. My daughter works there. But I often quote you because I'm big into exercise and working out. And I remember when you were doing the ads with, I think it was Chuck Norris.
Yeah.
And you said as you get older, you feel like you do double the workout and get half the results. And I understand what you're saying now. But what do you do now to stay in shape?
Since I've been on the book tour, not much. I had promised that I was going to get up every morning and do yoga to stretch it all out. But man, they've had me tearing around up at 4 a.m. and on the early shows and going. I'm really losing my voice at this point. But I really I love exercise that doesn't feel like exercise. So I love to spin. I love biking, whether I'm actually biking outside or biking in a Soul Cycle or a Peloton, that kind of thing. I do love yoga. I think yoga is really good because it kind of gets you stretched and strengthened, and but also to go to a yoga class and hear some of the positive stuff. Like here in the Hamptons, we have Colleen. Have you ever been to Colleen Sedman? Oh, she always inspires. I always cry during my yoga class because they always say something so inspiring and so beautiful. And I'm like, but I think it's really, it gets your brain and your body, which is good.
I love all the questions.
Hi, I'm Robert. For most of us, when we go out, we have our sense of privacy, but you're in the limelight. So I was wondering if you could share your thoughts about the price you've paid for having all these wonderful experiences. And at the same time, I suppose you probably don't have the privacy that most of us have. Can you share your thoughts?
Yeah. Well, luckily, I think people are really nice to me, and we've been my whole family is grown up with my kids. I remember one day I was driving a bunch of kids home, and Sailor was in the back seat, and one of the friends that was coming over goes, "Wait a minute, is your mom a model? Is she famous?" And Sailor went, "No." She didn't even know. Sailor, and Sailor, and then she goes, yes, I think she is. And Sailor said, no, she just has a lot of friends. And so I think, I don't know, in the beginning, when Billy and I first got together, that's when it intensified. And we used to say, for both of us, it intensified. We both had like the little smattering of like, that looks like, is that, but being together, we validified, we validated the other one, so your suspicions are right as soon as you went, oh yeah, because I see him, because I see her. So then it doubled. And that occasionally was, a little bit like maybe he was about to be romantic at a quiet table in the corner, and suddenly somebody's like, hey, your next door neighbor's daughter was friends with my cousin's next door, babysitter
for you.
And and it's like, okay, great. Well, say hi to your neighbor's next door neighbor's babysitter's daughter for us, But and when you have a little kid, sometimes, and the kids are telling a story, but then it seems like people sort of started to understand, like it's the kids' time. And so they would just sort of like, hey, like a little hello wave or whatever. And for the most part now, I feel like if people don't say hi, I feel like invisible.
I have to say, she's the most generous. I have been with you in public, and you give everyone love and attention and make people feel seen and special. And with the press, you were always so very kind and generous with your time. And I know it's hard to believe, but not everybody is. And reading this book, I have a newfound appreciation for that, because you've had not always the most positive press experiences, yet you are still so willing to put yourself out there and respect what we all do for a living, and give us so much of yourself. So thank you.
Well, you will see in the book how sometimes the press stories can influence a life very negatively. And that can be hard. And it's hard to sort reality from, like, is that true what they're saying, or is it not? And, but seeing as I've seen a lot of things that aren't true about me, then I think that they could be not true about other people in my life as well. So kind of just have to take it with a grain of salt.
So your signature song is the Uptown Girl. I was thinking about when Princess Diana did that ballet routine. Did you think like she's stealing my thunder?
No, I loved it. I loved it. I thought that was so cool that she's the ultimate Uptown Girl.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, thank you.
Hi, Miss Brinkley. My name is Matt. I'm a local artist, and I'll show it to you later, but I have a Lego Ferrari that I made. I'll show it to you during the sign. I'd just like to show you. But my question is about, obviously the very famous vacation role that you had with the Ferrari that you've reprised a number of times.
Yeah.
But you've also, I've heard that you've turned down like a number of offers to do that. Can you tell us like the craziest offer you got in regards to that, reprising that role?
Well, my dad only gave me one piece of bad advice in his whole life. And that was after I did the first vacation, they called me the following year when they were making National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation. And I said, oh, they called me and want me to be back in the movie. And my dad said, oh, you don't want to get typecast as that young ingenue, you're so much more than that. And so I was like, but it was fun, and he said, yeah, but, be wary of that. So I said, no. That was only my second to worst mistake I ever made in showbiz. My first big mistake I made in showbiz? I can't believe, and I regret it every day, but I said no to hosting Saturday Night Live with Billy as the musical guest. What was I thinking? Because you know how Saturday Night Live, it's like one of my two favorite shows on TV, and I love it. But you know how it has some years that they go, oh, it's not as good this year, or like that. So it was sort of in that thing where people were going, and so when I said they want me to host it, they said, I don't know if the writing is going to, you're not a real actress, and you're going to be very dependent on the writing being really good. Otherwise, it's going to make you look bad. This was sort of some of the advice I was getting. And so I thought, and I didn't do it. And you know who did it?
Who did it?
Jerry Hall and Mick Jagger. And they were fabulous. And the writing was amazing. And it was so good.
Was that in the book?
No, I didn't.
I think I hit all the.
There's so much I couldn't fit in the book.
Is there anything else that you wish you would have included that you?
Oh, there's so many things. And I keep thinking of things like, and then I think, okay, you know what I'm going to start doing now? I'm going to start keeping a journal of everything that I thought should have gone in the book. And if anybody still cares, I'll come out
we'll
with
get
a
it
little,
in the movie.
A little addendum, like no, I keep thinking of there's plenty of things. I even called up my editor one day and I said, there was the time I was on this sailboat between Cabo San Lucas and La Paz, and the shipmate got an anchor in his head and he was bleeding to death. And suddenly a storm came up and there were 80-foot waves, and we didn't have an anchor because we had to cut the anchor free to get him untangled from it. So we couldn't anchor in any place like a safe harbor. So we had to, and we were in a part of wild coastline. And before I could go any further, she goes, no more death-defying stories. We have enough of those in the book already. But that is a good story. My dad actually said, if I wrote, because my parents were on the boat as well on this trip, and my dad, when we finally made it through, he goes, if I ever tried to write that into an episode, they would say, forget it. Not all of those things can happen.
But they did.
But they did. Yeah.
Oh, Christy, we just had one question. Me and my sport car friends, we always talk about your movie every year and watch it.
Yeah.
We just wanted to know, did you really get to drive that Ferrari?
I did. And you know what? Back then, I actually did all the driving.
Wow.
And they gave me, I was out at Warner Brothers in California. And, what's his name? I always forget his name for some reason. I went to Kosovo with him on a USO trip, but he was from Saturday Night Live, Smiley. Remember he did the things like, what is that called when you say things to build yourself up? Mr. Smiley, Smiley.
I don't know, someone Google, quick.
Anyway, he gave me driving lessons too. They took me in the Ferrari on the hillsides around there and said, okay, step on it. And I was like, and I had to learn to there was a special clutch move between fourth and fifth gear because it had a fifth gear. And I could go like, and really, and nowadays they don't allow that in movies. They put the car on a flatbed and just have the camera above and the wind machine. Yeah. So, but.
Franken? Is that what he did? Al Franken?
Yes, Al Franken. Thank you. What was the name of that character he played? Miss Richard Smiley or something? Stuart Smiley.
Oh, there you go.
And he had those little cards that would build up his ego. What are they called? Affirmations. Daily Affirmations with Stuart Smiley.
All right, we have 2 more questions.
Hello, Miss Brinkley.
There you are.
You are just as beautiful in person as you are on television.
Oh, you're too
you too,
kind.
Miss DiStefano. I just wanted to let you know that I am a brain and spinal cancer survivor. And I just wanted to congratulate you on being a cancer survivor yourself. Would you be able to discuss furthermore about your cancer journey?
I was very, very lucky because I caught it early. And so, my message to everyone in this room, I found a little skin cancer right over here. And I had no idea that that's what it was. When I first started, I felt like a little hard, almost like a freckle, but it felt hard. So at first I thought, did I scratch did a thorn? It must have been a rose thorn or something. And I kept trying to knock it off, but it kept suddenly being back there again. And it was actually my daughter's appointment. And I was standing there just, to be with her, to support, because she doesn't like going to the doctors. And I said, I know it's not my appointment, but I noticed he was looking at something on her. And I said, do you think you could just look at this thing on my face? And he said, oh my gosh, we've got to take that off right now. Like he could see it. He knew that it was a problem, and he took it off and he sent the biopsy in, and it was cancer. And so I went and did and they really had to dig a deep hole there to get it all out. And they did that where they keep going back, but he got it right away. He got it all and stitched it up, and they had a plastic surgery come in because of the job I do. They said, let's try and get it as invisible as possible. And I don't really notice it. So I'm just trying to keep spreading. And as a matter of fact, I'm hosting the Skin Cancer Foundation's gala next week. And my message is definitely early detection. Get it checked. If you suspect anything, even if you don't, when you get your annual physical checkup, include dermatology and get a full body check. Let them check between your toes. Let them check behind your ears. Like, really get checked out. Because catching it when I did saved me a lot. I have a friend who didn't catch it as quickly, and she had to go through all the stuff because it can very easily get into your glands, get into everything. So, and congratulations on getting through.
You are doing a lot better.
And I'm glad for you, because that sounds really scary, but
look at your smile. What a beautiful smile. Here, our last question.
Hi. Thank you so much for taking the time to be with us tonight and to share your story with us. What's the next item on your bucket list that you'd like to check off?
Gosh, I have so many items on my list before I get to the bucket part. I have a few more stops on, this is kind of the culmination. I have a couple more stops on my book tour. And then I have just celebrated my first year with Tower Hill, my clothing line, which I really hope to expand. Thank you. I really hope to expand and make that into something more right now we're with HSN. Oh, I'm so happy to hear that. Yes, great. So I have business ideas. I have ideas like I really want to paint again. I really I just have a creative urge. I want to get into the studio and start painting. So I think that's going to be figure very prominently on my bucket list.
On page 398, you said, if my life ever seemed lucky or magical, it's only because I made it that way. Christie, you are so magical. You bring magic to all of us wherever you go. Your script certainly is not done. We can't wait to see what's in your next chapter. And yes, the best is yet to come. Thank you so much, New York Times bestselling author Christie Brinkley, for being with us tonight and for sharing so much of your life and yourself with us. Thank you.
Well, thank you for being here. I was thrilled, and thank all of you too for coming, because you've been a great audience. You've been a great audience, and we'll be back here every Saturday night. All right.
All right. We all have a job to do. We have to go get our skin checked, and we have to start writing to Saturday Night Live. We got to get Christie to host.
Yes.
Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Good night. Thank you.